Can you hear me? Hi, good evening. Thank you very much, Nigel. Thank you very much, Donald, Phil, for inviting me. It's an honor to be here. Some of the faces I recognize, some I don't. Probably I only know your nicknames at the bull boards. We are 25 minutes away from the drinks and canopies, so I will try to be very, very short. I will be quite surprised if some of you never heard of Eco Atlantic. Eco Atlantic is a small oil and gas exploration company with a very clear strategic model. We come into what we believe to be prospective oil provinces across the Atlantic margin. We come in quite early into underexplored region. We prefer English-speaking countries, and we always take a very large... I need to drive this? Ah, I didn't know that. Sorry. And we always try to take a very large working interest, or very large blocks to start with, under a strategy that eventually we de-risk it internally using our own financial resources and our own technical in-house people to a stage that it is mature enough to bring in bigger companies to help us carry on the heavy load of the work program. We use their their bigger technical horsepower and their additional financial resources. We currently have 5 oil exploration blocks, one in North-South America in Guyana, and 4 in Namibia. Guyana is, to those of you who still don't know Guyana is the host of the biggest oil discoveries in the past 2 decades, with over 6.5 billion barrels discovered by ExxonMobil and Hess and Sinuk in the past 4 years. So this is our block in Guyana, Orinduik Block. Over there we partners with Tullow Oil. Some of you probably heard of them. It's a small English company. And Total, which is the French super major, recently sold a stake to Qatar Petroleum, waiting for them to come into the block as well. So it's us, the big echo, alongside the Tullow, Total, and Qatar Petroleum of the world. There's a pointer here? There is. This is our block. This is the famous Starbuck block. As I said, 14 oil discoveries in the past 4 years with 6.5 billion barrels of recoverable oil made by Exxon. This is the block. These are all discoveries. The green areas are all big discoveries made by Exxon in the past 4 years. As I said, first was the Liza discovery, then the entire Turbo area, and lately Hammerhead, which actually extends into our block. Our block is the one that is marked in light blue, where we actually started our exploration program earlier this year in July, and came up with two oil discoveries, the Jethro one and the Joe one. Jethro one was drilled was announced as an oil discovery in August this year, and Joe one was announced as an oil discovery in September this year. So basically we drilled 2 wells and we have 2 oil discoveries. Actually we have a 3rd discovery, which is an extension of this discovery made by Exxon, which extends into our block. So we are probably the only company in the business that has 167% hit rate. We drilled 2 wells and we have 3 discoveries on our block. That's again the Jethro and Joe Discoveries. They are all located in the north part of the block. The block is marked here. All of the oil in Guyana is to be found on the slope. There are 4 distinct terraces or water depth levels on the slope from the continental shelf and down into the deeps. The Exxon discoveries were made at the 4th slope, what we call. It's 1,500 meters water depth. The Jethro and Hammerhead discovery, the same discovery that extends into our block, were made in the 1,350 meters water depth. Joe discovery was made in the 2nd terrace at 650 meter water depth. And currently there's another well being drilled by Repsol, Total, and Tullow, which they call Carapa, which targeting over 300 million barrels of a prospect that is being drilled on the shallow water shelf, that's 70 meters of water. Let me show you how it looks like from the side. So Hammerhead discovery made by Exxon back in August 2018 was drilled here. This is the block boundary, so if I would put a straight line over here, you see that some of the oil actually goes into our block. Then we went and drilled Jethro back in July 2019, so a few months ago, and came up with a big discovery. Actually, we exceeded our pre-drill expectations, and we came up with a thicker reservoir than expected. Then we moved the drill ship and drilled the Joe discovery, announced in September this year, and currently Karapa is being drilled as we speak right now. It was spudded 2 weeks ago, and we expect to have results by the end of November, beginning of December. All in all, and what's that? All in all, and just to give you again a look at, this is our block. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Trust me, there are 20 prospects over here. All in all, we believe that our 20 prospects could contain around up to 4 billion barrels of oil, out of which we have net. We are 15% working interest on the block, so out of which we will potentially end up with 600 million barrels worth of oil. 1 barrel of oil in the ground in Guyana is estimated to value $8. There are all kinds of numbers going around, but it's anything between $7 to $10 NPV today for a discovered oil. So if we can tap the full potential that we believe we have there, 600 million barrels times $8, $7, $5, $2, it doesn't really matter, means that we will potentially be a very, very big company after an extensive exploration campaign that is due to continue in 2020 and 2021 and onwards. This is, as I said, this is a world-class basin, the best hit rate in the entire oil world. Exxon drilled 16 wells and come up with 14 discoveries. As I said, amount to more than 6.5 billion barrels. So basically, every well that they drill, over 90% hit rate. Every well that they drilled actually encountered oil and in big quantities. We drilled 2 wells, and we have 2 discoveries, so our hit rate is 100%. And people consider Guyana to be one big pool full of oil that's like fish, like shooting fish in a barrel. Wherever you drill, you find a pocket full of oil. This is remarkable. The first discovery was made in 2015, the Lisa discovery, and in 3 weeks from now, exactly 3 weeks from now, it will start producing at a rate of 125,000 barrels a day, ramping it up to 1 million barrels a day using 6 FPSO by 2025. As I said, yes, over 6 million barrels. You all have this presentation. These are all the discoveries with the net, with the thickness, with the net oil, et cetera, over 9.5 billion barrels discovered, 6.5 recoverable. We also have additional 4 exploration blocks in the second hottest exploration area in the world. Actually, if it wasn't for Guyana, Namibia was the #1. I'm a very, very big fan and a true believer in Namibia. Offshore Namibia, West Africa, Southwest Africa. We entered the space in 2011. Back then, more than 75% of the blocks were still up for grab. They're still open. In order for us, Namibia is, it's has one of the longest coastlines in the world per country. It's 1,600 kilometers, and in turn, the area of the economical water for oil exploration is huge. When we entered in 2011, we were one of the first movers into Namibia, so we could pick from everything that was available in order for us to know exactly what we're picking and to try and reduce our selection. We came to a deal with the Namibian government, according to which we will carry NAMCOR, the National Oil Corporation, for 10% on our exploration activities, and in return they will let us review all the data that was then available. So we spent three months in the NAMCOR in front of the one working station that they had back then, and we picked 4 offshore blocks in the Walvis Basin that we believed to be the oil kitchen of Namibia. Namibia has 4 sub-basins, the Orange to the south, Luderitz here in the center, Walvis here in the north, and north than the Walvis Ridge. Towards Angola, there's another small basin. So we picked 4 offshore exploration licenses. We started the work back in 2012 by acquiring the existing 2D den. We brought in Tullow and Azinam as partners. So Tullow was our partner in Namibia as well back in 2013, and then we shot a few surveys of proprietary 3D, which brought us to a position that we now have, as I said, the 4 blocks offshore Namibia. 2 of them are drill ready, covered with 3D and with target already selected. We still have time. On our fuse for our drilling campaign. We believe that we will probably be drilling Namibia in 2021. Until then, and what happened in between is that, as I said, we started with very small companies ourselves, and Impact and Pan-Continental, some of the names you probably know here from the market, Chariot, but in the past 2-3 years, mainly 2 years, the big boys of the oil exploration world came in, and now we have Shell, Total, Exxon, Cosmos, Galp, Africa Oil, Morenprom, all active in the region, and we are expecting 4 wells to be drilled starting April offshore Namibia. The first well will be drilled by Total right here. It is targeting 2 billion barrels of oil in the Orange Basin. The second well will be drilled right here, right next to our 3 blocks. This is a second well that is going to be drilled in May. And Exxon took lately 5 blocks, 1 in the middle of us, and 4 up here. They are planning to drill by the end of the year. So in Namibia, in Guyana, we have Exxon as our neighbors. This is not bad neighbors to have. They follow us everywhere, actually. Some of the portfolio highlights, again, you have it all back there. So in a nutshell, our approach is we have a proven strategy of coming in early, taking a very large working interest to start with in underexplored prospective basins, English-speaking across the Atlantic margin. Then we partner with what we believe to be the best in the industry. We are, again, a small company, but we have Total as a partner. We have Tullow Oil as a partner, Qatar Petroleum as a partner. These kind of partners enable you, first of all, to add a lot more technical horsepower into every decision, into every technical meeting, as well as benefiting from their very deep pockets. And we try to strike deals that are fair for both sides, and they do carry us for a lot of the work. This is how we de-risk our shareholders' valuable money, and this is how we de-risk the play technically. Some would say we have a very good management. We are focusing on highly prospective areas, and we have a unique exposure to Guyana, which is considered by far in the entire exploration world to be the hottest area in the world. Some of the partners that we have, Africa Oil is our biggest shareholder. You know Africa Oil, probably you heard of Africa Oil. It's a part of the Landin Group. Africa Oil is headed by Keith Hill. Keith Hill is a veteran and very experienced explorer and producer in the industry. They own 18.5% of Eco-Atlantic as a strategic partnership. So in turn, we can always go and say to big boys that negotiating with us that we have Landin as a grandfather, and they don't want to mess with our grandfather. As I said, other partners are Tullow Oil that you know, Total, Azinam, and Namco. This is our board and management. I don't want to waste your time. You have it in your presentations. And the investment case, we drilled 2 wells this year with 2 discoveries. This is only the beginning of what could be potentially one of the biggest blocks in the exploration world. We have a potential for 4 billion barrels. We only tapped less than 8% of it at the moment. There's a lot more, many more prospects to come. We have Tullow and Total as partners, very keen partners. We are planning a 2020 drilling campaign with at least 2 wells, if not more, to be drilled starting before the middle of the year. We have Namibia as a pure upside potential with 4 wells being drilled in Namibia this year. in adjacent to our blocks that could open whole new place in the region and will bring in additional very big players. And we did well this year in terms of return to shareholders, but that's the #1 strategy that I always carry. It's nice to have oil, it's nice to find oil, it's very nice to find oil. It's nice to produce oil, but my main goal always is to create shareholders value, and my board and myself will always take decisions that will maximize shareholders value. So we're not in love with any of our assets as long that we know how to make very, very big returns to our shareholders. That's it.
So, questions for Gil Holzman before we finish? And we've immediately got one over here.
Hello, Gil. Thank you for that. Neil Pigeon from Keith Bailey Rogers. In Namibia, and you're going to have to correct me because my memory's fading a bit, but did Chariot not try and drill a well, or drill a well which came in as a duster about 3 or 4 years ago? So it's interesting to know why, and then why was Namibia not favoured before, and what's brought everybody back, and what do you see in it compared to, say, Guyana, and why is everybody coming back to the area?
In terms of what's working or not working in Namibia, and those of us who follow it for the past 10 years, Namibia have seen few eras of peaks of exploration. Started in 2011 with, back then, the Chariot first well, which was up north in the Namibia Basin. That didn't work. Paul Welsh drilled it, and unfortunately what they thought to be carbonate reef was actually basalith, was volcanic shows. Then in 2013, you had the famous HRT campaign. HRT actually did recover oil to surface at 42 API. Very good quality oil right in the middle of the Walvis Basin. They proved 2 source rock, the Aptian and Albion, but not in commercial quantities. Then after their failing campaign, 3 wells that back then cost around $300 million. The industry went into the downturn in 2014. There was no one to drill offshore Namibia, and we had 2 attempts to drill in 2018. One is Chariot, the second one is Tullow. The good thing about these wells, they cost less than $19 million per well, gross, the entire well. So 20 days worth of a well, $19 million. So if you have 20% working interest, this is very affordable. The problem with both wells, as much as I know, and I'm not a technical guy, the problem with both wells that the reservoir, the deemed reservoir, was too far away from the source rock. So it was 300 meters or 400 meters above the source rock instead of few meters or 60 or 50, 60 meters above. It did encounter hydrocarbon shows, some wet gas, things like that, that suggest that there's a petroleum system in place. The one thing that now changed Namibia, and that's what makes all the big boys coming into the region, is a new geological theory that was proved by the Brulpadda well in South Africa. There was a very famous well drilled in December 2018 by Total and Africa Energy as partners. Africa Energy is a part of the Lundin Group. And they discovered the equivalent of 1 billion barrels of gas condensate offshore South Africa in the Durban area. Not Durban, I don't remember the name, but in the south, no, not in Cape Town. In any case, that proved a syn rift petroleum system, which by then no one considered syn rift to generate oil over there. This is much older and much deeper, but they proved that it works. And now everyone is eyeing the entire west coast of Africa, especially the South Africa, Namibia, and Angola, for syn rift kind of plays. We have a lot of syn rift, naturally, it's deeper in Namibia, and the big boys, Exxon, Total, Shell, Cosmos, Qatar Petroleum, that came into the country lately, they are all targeting this new geological theory. Total are going to drill the deepest well ever drilled in West Africa in April, targeting 2 billion barrels of oil. Into this syn rift, and we all hope that they will be successful. One thing I can tell you about the difference between Chariot or ourselves or even Tullow, until 2 years ago, Namibia was, and this is why it failed eventually. Namibia was what I call a country of one well companies. So companies like us, we can afford ourselves to drill one wildcat offshore Namibia. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, you're either out of business or out of money or out of the country or both. Exxon is not like that. Exxon can spend a lot of money on, first of all, on science and on trying to understand the broader geological structure of the basin. Same as Total, same as Shell. They came there to properly explore. So it will take a year, it will take 2 years. Eventually, they will crack the code, and they will be able to prove the oil offshore Namibia. I'm a very firm believer that in 2 years from now, we'll see first oil in Namibia.
Thank you very much. And just following on from that, did you say it's $20 million a well now? 19 to $20 million?
That was the Chariot well, $20 million.
Okay. And would you seek farm-out partners for that?
Sorry?
Would you seek farm-out partners for that, or would you
As I said, our strategy is to take a large working interest to start with. We will end up with very comfortably with 15, 20, 25%. Yeah. We don't drill wildcats at 60% working interest.
Okay, thank you.
There's a question at the back.
Hi. In Guyana, how much of a risk is the election next year, do you see, that's coming up?
To whom? To the
politicians? To you and your activities.
I'm not running for election, so there's no risk for me. First of all, the oil that was found in Guyana, or the proceeds from the oil, has the power to recreate a nation. And they're recreating a nation from, it's a very poor country, one of the poorest in South America, $4,000 GDP per capita a year, and they're going to become the richest, by far the richest country per capita in the world in 5 years from now. So it has a huge impact on the entire population. There's an opportunity of a lifetime for a nation to actually benefit from such a boom, economical boom, and they need to take very smart measures in order to make sure that they manage it properly. So any government that will come into power will be pro-oil, meaning they will let the professionals do what they do, they will collect the money, and they will invest it in healthcare and education and infrastructure to rebuild a nation. This is one. So I don't, regardless who's going to be voted, he's going to be pro-oil. They will try as a campaign measures to try and, to nick some more royalties. That's always the case, but that's for campaign purposes. Any government that will be elected will be pro-oil. On top of that, the challenge is so big to manage this huge wealth coming from the oil that is starting to flow as of 3 weeks from now, that there are many, many calls for unity government, because the nation needs to come together in order to, as I said, to recreate itself and to become the next Norway or the next Qatar.
Any more questions? One more, two, all right. Two, make them fairly quick because we're getting to the end of our time, but we'll try and squeeze you both in.
Thanks, Gil. Fast forward 3 to 5 years when hopefully you've proved up a lot of your reserves and you're sitting on 15% of a huge amount of oil. Do you see yourselves, I can't see you becoming operators with 15%, do you see yourselves as a production company, or will you seek to monetize your assets?
I look very bad in helmets. Honestly, I tried a few times. We know what we know to do best. We know how to generate good licenses. We know how to attract good partners. We know how to explore. We know how to create shareholders' value. This is why we're here. I don't see myself producing oil for the next 25 years, sitting on a rig somewhere in the middle of the ocean offshore Guyana. That's not our business. Our business is to create the biggest shareholders' value as we can, and the board will seek all alternatives to make sure that we monetize our discoveries in the best manner. Again, to answer your question, I don't think we will have an Eco-Atlantic in 5 years.
Okay, so that's no. Over here.
I said I don't think so.
Very good presentation. What about your drilling next year in Guyana? You've got these 3 wells. Can you tell us, I'll turn the cameras off, but can you tell us what targets you're going to drill and how are you keeping Tullow focused? Because they've got lots of wells elsewhere. I don't seem to have your focus for Guyana. And it's a bit strange.
Great question. Thank you very much for that. First of all, it's not a question of focus. They are focused on Guyana. I think that the Guyana is the #1 priority on their portfolio. That's for sure. But they have commitments as well. If they don't drill a well in Peru, they will lose the license. And this is how it works. So they need to manage their limited exploration budget, and they have a limited exploration budget because of all kinds of other issues that they have in the most proper manner. I didn't say we're going to drill 3 wells. I wish we would drill 4. We have money for maybe 6 even. But the bottleneck will be Tullow's priorities. They do need to drill a well in Peru. They do need to drill a well in Suriname. In terms of target selections, we will... There's a parallel. There's an effort in parallel. At the moment, they drill Carapa. Okay, they will not select any target for next year Orinduik Block before they have the results from Carapa. By the way, every day that goes by and we hear nothing about Carapa is a good sign, because when you have a discovery, it takes much longer to log and to sample and to test. If you have a duster, you announce a duster immediately. Let's hope they will say nothing in the next 3-4 weeks. Once they have results from Carapa, we will go back to the drawing table. We will reprocess our entire 3D seismic with the well logs from Carapa, from Jethro, from Joe, to come up with the target selection from next year. There are different views around the table. For example, Total would definitely like to go for the biggest target. They would like to accumulate reserves. This is their business. Tullow would like to test Jethro, or to appraise Jethro, potentially, in order to come up with a potential production seam and to test the Jethro channel that goes into the Jethro lobe discovery. We would like to come up with a few more discoveries just to make our shareholders happy. So we would like to, to target the low-hanging fruits that we see there. In any case, the market can expect a new CPR from us that is being now reviewed and updated, potentially in the next 3-4 weeks. I think this CPR will be a roadmap, at least from ECHO's perspective, of what needs to be drilled next. But the joint venture, as a joint venture, will be able to decide and announce drilling budget and targets by January, I think.
That's not going to be too late for Tullow's budget process.
The budget is the budget. They have around $150 million for exploration. They need to drill a few wells next year, so...
Okay, well, we'll have to get Tullow here to answer that question themselves. Thank you very much indeed to Gil Holzman. Thank you.